Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tearing apart the absolute behemoth that is the Red Bull empire. We're going to look at exactly how an obscure, incredibly sweet Thai energy tonic, originally just meant to keep truck drivers awake, somehow conquered the entire globe, completely bypassed traditional advertising, and transformed into a multi-billion-dollar cultural juggernaut.
And to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale and ambition we're dealing with here, just think of 39,000 meters. That is the exact height of the stratosphere from which Austrian skydiver Felix Baumgartner jumped back in 2012. He literally broke the sound barrier in free fall, all while wearing a massive Red Bull logo. That insane event was watched live by 8 million people on YouTube, and it perfectly encapsulates this brand's astronomical reach. They don't just sponsor extreme events, they literally create history.
All right, let's just dive right into the agenda. We're going to cover 1. The Red Bull phenomenon, 2. The Thai origin story, 3. The marketing revolution, 4. Sports and media empire, 5. Business model and risks, and 6. Lessons in brand building.
Starting off with Section 1, the Red Bull phenomenon.
So, out of an $86 billion global energy drink market in 2022, Red Bull controls a staggering 43%. They're moving over 11 billion cans a year. To put that into perspective, that's more than one can for every single human being on Earth every single year. They essentially created this entire beverage category from scratch in the West.
Moving on to Section 2, the Thai origin story.
You know, back in the 1970s, a Thai pharmacist named Chaleo Yoovidhya created Krating Dang, which literally translates to Red Bull. But this wasn't some sleek club drink. It was a flat, uncarbonated, super sweet syrup sold in a glass bottle, perfectly designed to keep truckers alert on those long, grueling hauls. Fast forward to the 1987 Western adaptation, and you get what we know today, a carbonated, slightly less sweet beverage packaged in that iconic, sleek silver and blue metal can, targeted squarely at young athletes, students, and partygoers. So how did that crazy transformation actually happen? Well, in 1982, an Austrian marketing executive named Dietrich Mateschitz was traveling in Thailand and stumbled upon Krating Dang. He found it completely cured his jet lag. Realizing the absolute goldmine this could be for the European market, he partnered up with Yoovidhya. They founded Red Bull GmbH in 1984, spent a few years meticulously tweaking the formula and the branding, and then officially launched in Austria in 1987.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Usually, when a Western executive brings an Asian product to the global stage, the original creators just get bought out for a flat fee. Not here. The Thai founders, the Yoovidhya family, actually retained a 51% majority stake in what was about to become a multi-billion-dollar global empire, with Mateschitz taking the other 49%. It was a genuine, massively lucrative partnership.
Which brings us to Section 3, the marketing revolution.
When they first launched, they obviously couldn't afford those massive TV ad campaigns, so instead they wrote the ultimate guerrilla marketing playbook to just manufacture a perception of insane popularity. They laser-targeted the 16 to 35 demographic. We're talking paying college students to drive around in Mini Coopers with giant Red Bull cans strapped to the back, handing out free samples at universities and underground raves. And get this, in a stroke of pure social engineering genius, they literally planted empty crushed Red Bull cans in university trash bins before the product was even widely available. It was literal garbage marketing, and it worked like an absolute charm to make it look like everyone was already hooked.
Through all these hyper-local, targeted efforts, they completely stopped selling a mere beverage. Instead, they were selling an identity, entirely wrapped around that legendary slogan, Red Bull gives you wings. It wasn't about the caffeine anymore. It was this promise of energy, adventure, and living without limits. If you're pushing boundaries, whether pulling an all-nighter for a midterm or jumping off a literal cliff, you are a Red Bull consumer.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Sports and Media Empire.
Here's the wild thing. Red Bull is actually a massive media and sports conglomerate that just so happens to fund itself by selling a high-margin energy drink on the side. Just look at their branded content. In 2007, they launched the Red Bull Media House, turning themselves into a premium content factory. And alongside that, they built a jaw-dropping sports empire. They don't just slap a logo on athletes. They own the whole shebang. They own 2 Formula One teams, top-tier soccer clubs in Germany and Austria, and global extreme events like cliff diving and crashed ice. They manufacture the heroes, own the broadcasting rights, and completely control the narrative from top to bottom.
Their cultural cachet is so immense right now that outside brands are practically begging to associate with them. Take the Oracle deal in Formula One as a prime example. Tech giants like Oracle are willing to shell out
500 million euros over 5 years just to put their logo on a Red Bull racing car. Red Bull has made their sports properties so incredibly valuable that they are essentially self-sustaining marketing vehicles.
There's a quote from the late Dietrich Mateschitz that perfectly captures this whole mindset. When asked why on earth they bought a second Formula One team, which was Minardi, then Toro Rosso, and now Visa Cash App RB, he simply explained it was to have a place to put all the young talent they were developing. They absolutely refused to hand their future champions over to rival teams. They wanted to control everything, right from the grassroots talent pipeline all the way up to the World Championship podium, brewing internal legends like Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen.
All right, Section 5, Business Model and Risks.
The financial engine under the hood here is just explosive. In 2022, they hit nearly 9.68 billion euros in revenue. That represented a massive 24% year-over-year jump from 2021. For a brand that's been around since the 80s, seeing that kind of sustained double-digit growth is almost unheard of in the traditional food and beverage industry.
So how exactly do they pull this off? Well, the secret sauce is their estimated 50% gross margin. They achieve this incredible profitability by keeping the actual physical drink production and bottling completely outsourced to strategic partners. Red Bull doesn't own giant, clunky beverage factories. Instead, they keep an iron grip on their distribution networks and their brand messaging. That allows them to confidently pump an estimated 10 to 13% of that massive revenue straight back into high-octane marketing and branded content.
But to be completely fair and comprehensive, we do have to look at the very real risks they face. There's heavy ongoing pushback from health-conscious consumers and regulators who are heavily scrutinizing that high sugar and caffeine content. Plus, there is a rapidly booming market for eco-friendly, natural functional drinks that are definitely threatening their market share. And frankly, their aggressive marketing has bitten them before. They actually had to settle a $13 million class action lawsuit in the US because some consumers argued the "gives you wings" slogan was misleading about the drink's actual physical benefits. Go figure.
And finally, Section 6, Lessons in Brand Building. The ultimate takeaway really boils down to Dietrich Mateschitz' original vision. This company succeeded because it built an entire ecosystem of entertainment and heroism that people actively want to engage with. He taught the whole industry to sell a lifestyle, not just a commodity. They penetrated university cultures and sports niches way before they ever flooded supermarket shelves. Crucially, they own their creative assets rather than just renting ad space on TV, and they invest fearlessly in long-term brand building instead of sweating over the immediate next-day ROI of every single campaign.
By fully internalizing the idea that you don't sell a product, you sell an experience, they bypassed the traditional beverage wars completely. They aren't out there trying to outtaste Coca-Cola or Pepsi, they just focus entirely on the energy, the community, and the attitude of their fans. When you buy a can of Red Bull, you're buying a ticket to that stratosphere jump, a piece of that Formula One victory, and a slice of that pure adrenaline.
But as we look ahead, the landscape is definitely shifting under their feet. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to consider. As global tastes rapidly pivot toward natural health products, organic ingredients, and wellness over just pure adrenaline, how is this extreme sports empire going to adapt its high-octane formula for the next generation? Can they maintain this absolute cultural dominance, or will they need to find a completely new way to fly? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating explainer with me.